my name is Dina Lassiter, and I will be talking about comedy of manners and the way that a woman uses a fan with a comedy of manners play. So comedy of manners, it ridicules the manner of a social class or multiple classes, and is often represented by stereotypical stock characters. So for example, a very old man who is pretending to be young, or a very smart woman who is actually in real life really dumb and just doesn't understand what's going on. The plot of comedy is concerned with scandal, and the dialogue is less important. So this comedy of manner was first developed by an ancient Greek playwright, Mendier, and his style had elaborate plots with stock characters that were imitated by Roman playwrights, Plautius and Terence. And with that, the most famous and most known comedy of manners plays were from French playwright Molière with his play Tartuffe of 1664. Going off of that with comedy of manners is also called the Restoration period of comedy. And many believe that many actually of Shakespeare's plays were comedy of manners plays. So for example, Much Ado About Nothing or Midsummer Night's Dream, many people believe that it was a comedy of manners play, when really both those plays were more into the Restoration comedy of the era that was. Restoration comedy was influenced by Ben Jonson's Comedy of Humors, and the Comedy of Humors made fun of affected wit and acquired follies of the time. And two examples of the Restoration comedy were A Country Wife by William Wycherley and The Way of the World by William Congreve. So said by Crawford in the Australian Studies for Drama of Creative Arts, comedy of manners and Restoration comedy conventions included that country life was boring, characters clashed with each other in love entanglements and love affairs and all of these kind of love triangles that happened between man and woman, and all these different plots that happened. And so with those love affairs and love entanglements and all the love triangles, it wasn't really seen on stage because it really wasn't shown on stage because it wasn't meant for the stage. Since comedy of manners was in the 17th and 18th century Europe, women of that time were seen wearing ball gown skirts or ball gown dresses with long sleeves and covered from almost head to toe. And so that was outdoors, and also with outdoors they wore cloaks and just kind of kept themselves hidden because they weren't really allowed to show any skin outside. But when it came to them being indoors, they could show as much as they want. They could show more of their bosoms, they could show more of their bosom and more of their hands and their neck and a little bit more of their feet. So with that, with the time period that it is in, women use the fan to communicate to other women or to other men, and that included flirting or they could include flirting or just doing a simple little talk or just communicating in general. So, for example, if a woman rested a fan on her right cheek, it meant no, it meant yes, while if it was on her left cheek, it meant no. Fanning slowly told other men and women that the woman was married, while fanning quickly meant that she was engaged. Some other examples are that if the left fan is in front of her face, covering it almost completely besides her eyes, it meant that she desires the man's acquaintance. Just simply carrying the fan in her left hand meant that she would like for him to come and talk to her. If the woman takes her fan, a closed fan, and touches her right eye, she is asking the man when she may see him again. And with that, she would then open the fan to how many tick marks. So inside the fan, there are these tick marks. These tick marks indicated how many hours she would be allowed to see the man. So if she was to see the man in 3 hours, she would hold it up to her eye like this. That would tell the man, I will see you in 3 hours. Taking the fan in the left hand and holding it by the handle, either by a string or a little loop, and simply twirling the fan, meant that she was being watched. This would be her way of telling other women or men that she was being watched, and to be careful what they say, because you never know who is watching. You never know who the other person could be for that person. Taking the fan and covering her left ear meant that you should not betray her, or you should keep her secret. The fan was also used for, the fan was also used for new couples who were not engaged, because it was very rare for those couples to be seen alone. So the woman would use the fan to communicate with the new boyfriend, with the new guy or boyfriend in this sense, to show how much that she loves him, or just to communicate with him, and just to, again, say how much she loves him, or how much you mean to her, or like that. So by simply taking a closed fan and placing it near her heart, it meant that he has won her love. Taking an open fan in either hand and covering her entire face so that her eyes are covered meant that she loved him. By having a closed fan and taking the fan handle and pressing it against her lips, it simply told the man that he may kiss her in later future. Taking a fully opened fan and closing it slowly meant that she promised to marry the man one day. However, though, if a man was being rude to her, or if she did not wish to see him anymore, if she took the fan and held it upside down over her left ear, it meant that she would like to get rid of him. And if the man was being cruel to the woman, she would open and close the fan several times. So with those movements, I will now demonstrate a few of the movements used in one of Shakespeare's plays, Much Ado About Nothing. And so I will be taking the following acts, Act 2 and Act 3. I will be taking Act 2, Scene 1, Act 2, Scene 3, and Act 3, Scene 1. So in the first one, Act 2, Scene 1, Hero is flirting with Don Pablo. So you walk softly and look sweetly and say nothing. I am yours for the walk, and especially when I walk away. In the same act, Beatrice is talking to Hero. Speak, cousin, or, if you cannot, stop his mouth with a kiss, and let him not speak neither. Also in the same act, Beatrice is talking to Don Pablo. Yeah, my lord, I think it. Poor fool. It keeps on the windy side of care. My cousin tells him in his ear, and he is in her heart. In Act 2, Scene 3, Beatrice is talking to Benedict. Yeah, just so much as you take upon a knife's point and choke a draw withdrawal. You have no stomach, Signor Benedict. Fare you well. In Act 3, Scene 1, Hero is talking to Ursula. For look, where Beatrice, like a lapwing, runs close by the ground to hear our conference. Also in the same act, Hero is still talking to Ursula. Say the prince and my newly trod lord. So upon learning these fan movements and the way that the fan is used and the way that a woman uses a fan, I actually found it a lot harder than what I thought it would be. I actually thought it would be a lot easier to learn the fan movements, but it actually became a lot difficult because some of the fan movements had become either really confusing or were almost the same as another one. So with doing more research and practicing a lot more, I had became more interested in the fan and have really came to a liking of it. And with the research that I've done with the fan and with Comedy of Manners and the way that a woman uses a fan, it has really become very helpful for me to understand how a woman uses a fan in a play or a Comedy of Manners movie in that sense. So I found it very useful for knowing the way that a woman uses a fan, and then when I do go see a play, for instance, when I did go to see Midsummer Night's Dream last year with some of my friends, I really didn't understand the fan, the way that the woman was using the fan, but now that I look back on it, I really do understand how she used the fan and what language she was speaking. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation on the Comedy of Manners and the way that a woman uses a fan.